Hey, welcome back to you, Monster Gaming. Per request, I wanted to talk about progressing in the game. There's definitely a lot of talk in games like this that you want to upgrade every single thing. You know, defensive, offensive, technologies, everything. You want to upgrade everything before you get to the next stage. And um, I would say 3 years ago, um, that was definitely the case. It was very difficult when you went from one age to the next age. You would get smashed like immediately if you didn't have, all this defensive stuff and all your walls leveled up. Don't forget about your walls. Walls are very important in this game. Um, but the game has changed a little bit, and I think they've made it a little bit better for the people that are going to stick around and play the game. They have these things here, the daily rewards. This didn't exist about 2 years ago or so. So this is going to help you with random daily rewards. Could be crowns, could be speed ups. Speed ups was another thing that came out about 2 years ago that didn't exist before, and you would really have to wait and wait and wait for everything. But that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Um, and you can see down here the little metal thing that says 1067 on the bottom here. That used to be up here on the right, right under your level, because it was that important back then. A lot of people played this crazy competitively, and I know they still do. But that was kind of like what they were kind of pitching to you is you want to be leveled up, you want to have the highest rank possible, et cetera, et cetera. Because of all these little things that they're giving you for free, um, what do you call it? Even this thing here, all these things here. Some of these existed, some of them didn't. But I know that you get like a daily. Depends on the event. Sometimes if there's an event running, you'll get a daily little loot box thing. Those things didn't exist back in the day. So now you have so much opportunity to get these little enhancements, get, gifted better troops, gifted um, crowns, gifted other things. I feel like the progression is a little bit quicker now than it was back then, which is nice. So it means that you can catch up quicker. So let's say you're not maxed out on everything and you go to the next age. All these small little things, including the crowns, all these things are actually going to help you. They're going to help you be able to level up a little bit quicker, be able to afford different things. So they've done a lot in this game to keep people motivated because it is a slow paced game. I think Clash of Clans, a few other games like that. Yes, you have to wait for things, but there's not as many things to work on, so it doesn't take forever and ever. It's more about attacking, 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 attacking. This one is about attacking, of course, but this one is also about trying to make sure that your economy makes sense. Make sure that you're leveling up on the back end, that your wise men are learning new skills. There's so much more to this game, so that's why it moves a little bit slower. But basically, what I'm saying is you don't need to max out 100%. There is no need to. That gap has shrunk a little bit now, where you can catch up at a relatively decent pace. And then they do a lot of events and they do a lot of discounts too. So a lot of times that's definitely going to help you out. So this little button right here shows you recommended upgrades, shows you discounts, shows you speed ups. That didn't exist before either. Now they're kind of showing you, hey, there's stuff going on here that you can kind of prioritize because the game does throw a lot of stuff at you. And then the advisor gives you recommended stuff. On the discounts, this is if there's ever events. You don't have to go hunting around for what's on sale, what's not on sale. It puts it all right there for you, which is really good. Puts it all in one place. Um, so they did improve over time a lot of quality of life stuff. So basically what I was getting at is there's a lot of people that are starting out this game, maybe played for a month, maybe two, and they're still in the first 4 ages, 4 or 5 ages or so, and they're kind of curious about, a lot of talk about these nations that are the best, these troops are the best, these defenses and offenses are the best. But as I stated in a previous video, every age is different. there's different high points. Once you get to the gunpowder age, then voila, you get gunpowder. So now you can get rifles instead of like bow and arrow and things like that. Now you can get like cannons and different things like that. Past that, then you get into the Enlightenment age, and now you get a university, which is crucial. Citizens can learn from the great leaders of history to improve your army, defenses, economy. So when you start out, a couple ages in, you get the library, which is super useful. Your wise men can research new inventions, technologies here. Biggest difference, library is very general and broad. It'll help very general things, maybe your generals, maybe your offense or defense, like certain things like that. And it does not require workers to work on. So it just requires funds. So it's awesome. Um, Once you get in here, like I said, you can unlock two. Um, Eventually, maybe once you get the university or something like that, if you can spare the crowns, definitely get the second slot because you're going to want to be doing a bunch of these at a time if you can, or working on it constantly, kind of thing. University is a little bit different, so let's go in here. University picks these leaders um, of their various different, things. Um, and this is a little bit more of a tech tree. The other one is a tech tree for sure, but it's very generalized. This is a lot more specific. So when you train, let's see, Suleiman the Magnificent. Trench mortar damage, 1 to 10. So you have 10 different levels there. Then you have trench mortar hit points. So see how it like helps you with a specific troop. Then you got demolition damage. Then you have weapon blessing, temple hit points, anti-tank gun. Oh, these are really good down here. Anti-tank gun upgrade cost, anti-tank gun hit points, scrolls chance, that's like museum or something like that, and then the general upgrade cost, and then the lawgiver. So total skill levels is 100. So these are all very specific skills to a specific part of your city. As you can see, I'm working my way, but working my way slowly. Because not only are they expensive, they also take a long time. And third, they take workers. So like even this one, increased damage dealt by towers, which is very useful because it's you're going to use towers throughout the rest of the game. So this isn't after a couple ages, it's not useful anymore. This is always going to be useful. But it's going to take 5 days, 12 hours, and it's going to take 3 workers. Now, the cool thing about this one is, let's say I train somebody in King Sejong, I can go over here to Suleiman the Magnificent and train somebody else here, as long as I have the workers. You can't train more than one thing per leader category, but you can train more than one thing. So I could have Harriet Tubman working on something at the same time. So she does traps, increase income, spy report. I don't have spies yet, but spies are freaking awesome. Sniper tower damage, spy report, expedition, return faster, museum storage. So all these things are very specific. Amelia Earhart is really good. Improves your oil production, your surface-to-air missile battery damage, your triplanes, aircraft upgrade cost, air defense damage, air defense hit points, paratroopers. Like awesome stuff. And this stuff, like I said, all of this is going to help you throughout the rest of the game. So university is arguably more important. Um, let's see this one. This one does like the food, mining, expansion time, because expansion time takes forever, oil well capacity, yada yada. Trying to remember which one of these it was, but I remember here it is. There was a time, you'll see in a lot of other videos that a lot of the winders are nice, but some of them you want them to survive longer because they're giving you some sort of defensive health benefit. And a lot of people are complaining, I don't want to use this, I don't want to use that because it dies so fast and then it doesn't give me any kind of benefit. So here's Empress. Increases hit points of wonders. This is like exactly what people were asking for, 3-4 years ago, or 2-3 years ago. And here it is. Now you can increase the percentage of their hit points. And their hit points are relatively high for what it is, but a lot of times they're not very well protected buildings. They're just kind of like on the outside because they're huge and it's easy to swarm them. So this answered a lot of that. Instead of changing the wonders themselves, which they could have done and added more hit points, here you go. Now you can increase as much as you want, basically. If you want to put the effort into it, boom, do that. Museum artifact, T-chance. Forest defenders, that's huge. Additional hidden defenders will come from the forest. That's awesome. Then you have forest expansion, reduce citizens. Oh, that one's good too. See, some of these I haven't looked at because I don't like looking at stuff that I like can't afford anytime soon. But that one's huge too because it takes a lot of people to expand. Forced expansion, reduce cost. Perfect. Another one that reduces the cost. Mercenary camp capacity. I love using mercenary camps, so that one's a really good one to do down the road. Factory APC, upgrade cost and damage. So basically it makes all your units more viable. They make them either cheaper or they're trained faster. So all of this adds a ton of dynamic because depending on your nation, depending on the wonders that you're using, depending on the different technologies that you're using, it could actually increase the bonus of your unit that you already have. So like elite infantry. So if you're using like the Romans, the Germans, or the Japanese, um, this might be one that you want to work on sooner than later, increasing your infantry damage and hit points, because it will make a difference. Now, obviously, you have to get, I think at least halfway, like it shows here, to be able to unlock the next level. So you don't have to max them out if you don't want to, but you might want to get to that 5 point or so to be able to unlock the next level, which is nice. Then you have the garrison defender, garrison hit points, and the garrison defender hit points. Huge. And then garrison upgrade cost, city center upgrade cost gets reduced. City center hit points, which is nice. General recover time, economic library tech cost. Ooh, that's a really nice one. Reduces the cost of economic stuff. And then coup d'etat. Revolution crown cost reduced by 50%. See, I've never looked at these. That's insane. That's awesome. That's awesome. So these are amazing. These are all absolutely amazing. Trench mortars, which I don't really care about, but I'm going to try to get them up to 5 so I can start working on some of the stuff down here. And then they always have like a maximum thing. Wonder power cooldowns are 30% faster. Nice. Nice. So the university is super, super helpful. So once you get to the Enlightenment age, you'll be able to start working on that. And then obviously you have to get a few ages further to be able to level them up a little more. The other building that you won't see until you get to, Enlightenment, probably Industrial, is the factory. The factory changes the game. So this is when you can use oil for these troops here. Now I should have the bazooka, but I've been really, really slow about leveling up this part of the game. But you get the machine gun. So this will be a new unit for you once you get there. Powerful anti-infantry unit which excels against large groups of enemy. Their attacks suppress enemy infantry, causing them to move at half speed and deal half damage. So training cost 20, troop space 3. So it does cost more space than the your archers, but these guys are gonna hit multiple people at the same time, and they're gonna make them go half speed and deal half damage. So these guys are really good for crowd control against enemy foot troops. They are weak against defensive buildings, of course, and against cavalry. Cavalry will hit them pretty hard. They'll do damage against them, but they're not going to be as good. Actually, sorry, they'll be weaker against them because cavalry will just hit them a couple times. They'll be dead because they don't have a lot of hit points. But these guys are really good. They're very situational. You got to make sure that you're using them properly and that you're protecting them. The longer that they stay alive, the longer they'll be able to mow down infantry coming at you, which is really nice. Later in the game, you will get planes, and at least for me, planes are a little bit better. Once you get the little fighter plane thing, it will do that, take out a bunch of troops, I think, quicker than the machine guns. So machine guns are situational, but once you unlock them, they're going to be super useful. There's a lot of these kind of troops that later on in the game, they're not as useful because they come out with other troops, but the machine guns are really good. Commandos, which I talked about recently, are awesome because they can infiltrate a base. They can go through the gates. and put explosive and look at the damage on, at least on this commando. They start at, I think, as saboteurs, I think is what they're called. 12,009, or guerrillas, saboteurs or guerrillas, 12,900, which is insane. So these are guys that you kind of want to send, one at a time, let them sneak in there, do some damage. If there's some heavy defenses on the outside of the base that are stopping you from getting in, put these guys out there. They will do a ton of damage. Obviously, they will get overwhelmed if they're caught by defenders. But defensive buildings will not shoot at them. Only defenders. So once again, once you get to the airplanes and that stage there, what I do is I send these guys out, and then once a bunch of defenders come out trying to take them down, I have the planes mow them down to keep them alive a little bit longer. If you don't have planes, then you definitely want to use the rally to get them out of trouble. But they have a lot of hit points, 4,800, and I know it's less for the regular ones, but they have a lot of hit points. And then if you have the Brandenburg Gate, that actually I think increases their damage and effectiveness and things like that. The big game changer up to this point of the game is definitely the heavy tank. The heavy tank is different from the regular tank because it attacks anything. It doesn't just go straight to defensive buildings. This attacks anything. In the library, there is a book in there with different chapters that focus specifically on the heavy tank. One of them will give you splash damage, which is awesome. So it won't hit one target at a time. It'll hit a bunch of targets at a time, which makes it even more effective. You can see the hit points are massive. I think even the regular version's like 18 or 20,000, the MK1. They do have a slow rate of fire. They do maneuver pretty slowly. Their training cost is massive, which is 455. So it'll be very risky when you first get into that age where you get oil, because that is very expensive. So you want to keep them alive. But the biggest thing, and I think this is smart of them, is the troop space. It uses 24 troop. And if I recall, when you get to, it uses 25. In the library, you can train some things, so it costs one less. It's very expensive. So if I remember correctly, at this point, you should have just about 100 troop space, maybe a little bit less. So you should be able to run maybe 4 of these. And that's it. There's like no other troops you can bring with you. So these are kind of tricky. You definitely don't want to clump these together. You want them doing their own different thing. The healing carts will heal them very well, but obviously you need to protect them. So you might want to use some archers because that's cheap to kind of protect the healing carts. These guys take a ton of damage. They really do. 32 minutes, yeah, that takes a little while to train. But the heavy tanks are amazing, amazing, amazing. Work on that library. Like I keep saying, the library is super, super important. Look at the ones that are really going to help you out versus the ones that might help you out, like passively, I guess. Do the ones for the generals. Do the one for the tanks. Do the ones for the your regular armies. I mean, just level up as much as you can. And then later you get the bazookas, which I'm kind of dragging my feet on just because I love my planes and the other strategies that I have. But everything costs oil and upgrading is so expensive now, so I am taking my time. Rocket launchers, there's a steel. They specialize in destroying tanks, but they do tanks, buildings, and walls. All 3 of those things they do a ton of damage towards. Regular troops, they don't do as much damage, and other things. So, but these are great. Once again, if they get swarmed, they'll be dead. So make sure you protect them, or have like a little bit of a bunch of them, but like in a line, so they're not all clustered together. They will do fine for you. The other thing that I already mentioned that you will unlock is the airstrip. I think this is, I don't remember which age it is. I think it's the one after industrial, I think. Don't remember. Either way, so this one you start off with basically like a fighter plane. And this one goes after heavy cavalry, heavy tanks. Oh, it does suppress buildings. Um, but I tend to use this one for like the little tank and like a ton of troops coming at you, defenders, because it does a ton of damage. Strafing runs too, which means it goes and attacks, circles back, and then hits them again, which is really nice. They don't have a lot of hit points, so you have to be really careful with towers and things like that. Anti-air missiles, things like that. They cost 320, which is pretty high, but by the time you unlock this, 320 is not as crazy as it sounded before. Airspace 1. So these guys are really good. I definitely recommend leveling them up. They will, like it says here, they will suppress buildings. They'll operate 50% slower, the defensive buildings, but they might get shot down in the process. So who knows? But they're great against defenders, like a bunch of defenders. They will do some pretty good damage there. The second one is the airship, which is basically a bomber. These things are awesome. Their hit points are very low. They don't move very quickly either, so you just got to be careful. They only do one run, which is fine, and I think they drop 3 or 4 things there, so in a little bit of a row. So it's not going to hit just one building; it might hit 2 or 3, which is really nice. But you just got to make sure they get out of there ASAP. These ones use 2 airspaces. They're super cool. Sometimes I'll use them for infantry as well, like if a lot of defenders are coming in and I don't have the other plane. This one will take out the building plus, the troops that are right there as well. The other one that I have not unlocked, which I probably should, is the transport, and this one drops paratroopers. The paratroopers' damage per second is very high, 675. So these are elite military, and their hit points are 4,000. So their hit points are very high. I think this is the equivalent of like 5 or maybe 6 regular infantry, somewhere around there. It's almost like having six infantry in one unit, which is really nice. And they deploy 3 at a time. So you have 3 of those, and you can launch them behind enemy towers. I mean, enemy walls, which is really cool. Obviously, if you put them right anywhere near a city center, they will deal 85% less damage towards the city center. So this is not a swarm the city center unit. This is a unit that goes to take out stuff from behind the lines. Let's see, what was it say? Do not cause enemy defenders to spawn. That's another huge thing. So if there are some enemy unit, the little bases there where they spawn from, that might be a good thing to do, is try to put them near there and take those out, like tanks, things like that. So they're very useful. They do fly kind of slowly as well. You have to be very careful. You don't want to leave them stranded by themselves because they will eventually just get overwhelmed. And the cooldown is 30 seconds. So you have to wait 30 seconds before you can launch them again, which I think gives you 3 different times you can launch them, 3 or 4. But that's another very interesting one. So all these change your gameplay for sure. Let's go back here because I know if you're very early in the game, you probably only have the cavalry, and then you probably have the engineer as well. So I'm trying to remember what they were called before, but you would probably have up to there. Oh no. You would have the convoy and maybe the howitzer. Supply convoy is very important. Use it only for cavalry and generals. Don't use it for your infantry. Don't use it for your archers. Like, it's not going to do that much. It does triple for heavy HP units. So they're situational if you like to use that kind of setup. The howitzer, cannon, whatever you want to call it, are very heavy hitting. Definitely protect these at all costs. They could take out buildings in 2 shots, some in only 1 shot. 9 troop space, which is a pretty good amount. Range of 5, which is nice. Once again, you just want to make sure that these guys are protected. And this should be, for offense, this should be one of the first ones that you should level up. because they're not like infantry that later on become not as important. Veteran SMG or like the archers become a little bit less important down the road. Motorcycle raiders really fall off after the industrial age. Um, there's just so many defensive buildings that can rush them, unless you're just using a few here and there to distract. Tanks are great. They distract as well, meat shields. I don't use the engineer that much, but I know some people that really do and use them well. The howitzers, if you use maybe 3 at a time. They will do some serious work for you. Just make sure they don't die immediately. Oops. Oh, I didn't realize I had more slots. So I think I just built one of those. So I'm going to build another one of those. And then eventually you will get the trench mortar, which is interesting. Um, I'd say it's almost like a halfway between an archer and a bazooka, kind of, because they shoot for range and they do really good damage. But they're weak and they will shoot over walls. So if you don't like using the archers at all, because they do not do a ton of damage, you can use the trench mortars and use that instead. They do use more slots though, 6 troop spaces. So against buildings is 343 versus this is 54. So it does about 3 times the damage. So it depends. I mean, they're useful and they can hit anything. I mean, the trench mortars can hit other people and get rid of a bunch of infantry too, which is nice. Versus the archers only hit one thing at a time. And then later you'll unlock the attack helicopter, which is really nice. Goes after defensive buildings. Very low HP. But against defensive buildings, 539. So that's a really good amount of damage there. Range 7, true space 8. They're weak. So they're situational. Very situational, but they're very fun. So that's just a quick thing. I mean, I could talk so much more about this stuff. Hopefully you get the highlights. Always work on your library. Once you get the university, make sure you're definitely paying attention to that. But it will use workers versus the library won't. And have fun with all the troops. You're going to have so many more troop combinations to kind of figure out in your head. It's not just going to be these guys. Now you're going to have factory units, which are very fun, but all of them use more spaces. And then you're going to be able to get the planes later on. So we haven't even touched on the mercenaries and other things, but you're going to have so many different troops to choose from. That's where it gets fun and you can get creative. And then that's where a lot of people start thinking of, am I using the right nation? Are my wonders really helping me with the specific things that I'm working on? So there's a lot of assessment and a lot of scrutiny and just thinking about your stuff once you get to industrial age, on what's working for you and what's not working for you. If you hate using tanks, there's some buildings and some technologies and different things that you don't need to work on. You might need to change some of your wonders, but who knows? I don't know. Post any comments or questions or anything underneath. If you have any questions about, what's coming next for you, if you're in one of the earlier ages, what you should prioritize. Are you looking at stuff correctly? Are you kind of like, looking at the future the right way? Or do you have any questions about that? Because this is a game, like I said, that takes quite a long time to play. And you don't know kind of thing. If the next age comes out with 4 troops that completely obliterate or replace the troops they're using now, how do you adjust for that? And is it going to change your gameplay? Or are you going to keep doing the same thing? Like things like that. So any questions, please post them below. But thanks for checking us out. Thank you.